School can change your life, and that's more true of one school on Tyneside than most. Kirsten O'Brien reports on a unique place where children aren't the only ones to benefit.
1, 2, 3.
This is Olivia. She's 10 and she has cerebral palsy. Now, before she came here, she couldn't walk as well as this, and she's now able to communicate using simple sign language. And this is Andrew. He's 13. He also has cerebral palsy. And before he came here, he couldn't sit up, he couldn't roll over, and he couldn't communicate.
Welcome to Percy Hedley School in Newcastle.
Andrew and Olivia are getting a special kind of education here at the Percy Hedley School on the outskirts of Newcastle. It's inspired by the Peto Institute in Budapest, where they teach conductive education. Now, this aims to make sure that Olivia and Andrew make the most of their physical and their cognitive potential. There we go. Good girl. Brilliant stuff, Olivia.
Generations just going into lives of total...
Conductive education isn't well known at all in Britain, but 25 years ago it was practically unheard of until this documentary was broadcast. The film Standing Up for Joe followed Michael and Lisa Horsley when they took 5-year-old Joe to the Peto Institute in Budapest. They'd been appalled at how Joe, with his cerebral palsy, was treated in this country.
He was told by one doctor, look, it's not going to be much for you. You're never going to walk. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. And so it was a depressing feeling, yeah. Budapest knocked me off my feet. I just could not, sitting in that class, I'd never seen education on any level so good.
Come on.
After the Standing Up for Joe film, there was suddenly this huge rush of people coming over. Very brave people, many of them. Some people had probably never been out of England before.
What those parents probably didn't know was that a British version of conductive education was being developed right here. Staff had heard how well the Peto Institute's system worked and started using some of its methods in 1981, just before Joe was born and years before he went to Budapest. I'm on my way to meet Lucy Reynolds, one of the first children to have conductive education at Percy Hedley. She progressed so well that at 10 she went to a mainstream school. Now she's an academic studying for a PhD. She leads an independent life and lives on her own with the help of carers. How do you think that conductive education helped you?
I mean, the confidence to be able to cope in those surroundings, and you know, I appreciate that I learned that I could do things for myself.
All the therapies were integrated into one session, so the children weren't aware that they were having physiotherapy, occupational therapy or speech therapy, so it was more sort of child-friendly. And also, I think when children work in a group, they're motivated by their peers, so it was totally different.
Did you have any doubt ever over what you could achieve?
I don't think I did. I think I just tried to keep up with all the other children who I was at school with. And I don't think I had any doubts at all.
Tell me when it starts to pull.
This was Andrew Walker 7 years ago. He's like lots of children, where just learning to sit up, hold their heads up and communicate at a basic level is a massive success.
I can sit up and drive my wheelchair with my chin. I can move my head to talk with my communication aid.
The Horsley family revisited the institute periodically after they moved back to England in 1994. In Hungary, each child is taught by teams of conductors, all professionals in their own right. In Percy Hedley, they're taught by specially trained teachers with a thorough understanding of how the brain works. But for Joe's dad, that's just not good enough.
Without Hungarian-trained conductors, you cannot be doing conductive education. You might be doing a watered-down version,
Hands down,
but you will not have the basic fundamental thing, which is the fully trained conductors, teams of, not one in a group of a dozen kids.
Stretch, brilliant. Stretch.
But you do have Hungarian conductors here, don't you, from the Institute?
They're very much part of our teams, and they work alongside teachers, nursery nurses, occupational therapists, physiotherapists and speech and language therapists, all working together in an integrated team in the classroom situation, and that's quite a unique way of working.
Put behind, handle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Conductive education can also help adults who've had strokes, Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis. The conductors with the adult class are all Hungarian trained.
3, 4, 5.
How is it helping? How's it working out for you?
I don't fall over, which is a big thing. It teaches me different things, like if I'm in a football crowd. It can be a bit difficult if you have Parkinson's sometimes getting through little spaces. So they teach you sort of a set of exercises. You count to yourself 1, 2, left, right. So all in all, it helps me in my daily living.
There's been no large-scale scientific research that proves 100% how effective conductive education is, and that can make education authorities reluctant to spend the £25,000 a year it takes to bring a child here, and means parents are fighting for a place. Future developments, for adults in particular here, could hinge on a massive new international research project led by Percy Hedley.
Potentially we're facing a crisis if we don't get some funding from the local authorities, and last year in Newcastle we held a meeting of researchers from around the world, and those researchers together agreed to tackle some of the research questions to do with the effectiveness of conductive education. First time we've ever had international collaboration on research, which will convince the authorities in this country that this is a programme that is effective and must be funded in the future.
Joe Horsley would have been 30 this year, but sadly he died 6 years ago. His father, Michael, doesn't want to wait another lifetime before conductive education becomes completely accepted. He's appealing to Prime Minister David Cameron to help.
Well, Mr. Cameron, like myself, you were the father of a severely brain-damaged child, your eldest son. And Joe was my only son, and they both died. You have the potential and the power to do something about looking at conductive education, looking at what the Hungarians did. Could you please get a move on? There's no time to lose, and it's too precious and too full of potential to lose. And what a fitting memorial that would be to your son and my son.